Well, welcome everyone to YouTube Live. We're having fun. We're going to be talking about who wants to be a female millionaire. we're gonna really dive into this subject and probably wind our way through this subject because we talk about a lot of things when we're on these lives together. So in case you haven't met me, I am Karen. I'm one of the co-founders here inside of Truth Bomb. I love just bringing the fun back into building a business and actually enjoying with more fun, plain ease. So that's me.
Yeah. I'm Heidi Muma, another one of the co-founders here, and I love talking about finances and helping women be profitable in their business. It's time you get fed by your business and stop feeding your business, and it's actually possible no matter how much you're making.
Yeah, my name is Chef Katrina. I'm a former Disney chef, which is why you hear me go by chef. I bring the fun and play to Truth Bomb Academy around systems and marketing. I think we've gotten caught up in the drudgery of marketing instead of owning our marketing and really choosing how we market our business. So I like to make it fun again. Like stop being in this to-do cycle viciousness of ugliness and let's go
Viciousness of
play some fun.
ugliness.
It's
Yes.
viciousness of ugliness.
I actually, and I don't know if we had a plan for where we were going on this live today, but I just want to talk about a conversation that I had yesterday that really stuck with me because it's really, really relevant to what we talk about at Truth Bomb all the time. So I had met somebody through a mutual program and she wanted to have a deeper conversation. And I was like, yeah, let's talk. So we jumped on a Zoom call together and she basically was like, I want to help more people that are successful actually enjoy their success. And I was like, God damn, yeah. Like, seriously, like, she's like, how many people do you know that are successful, but they're miserable? Like, it's true. Like, and it's sad because, and I see this with a lot of my friends that have built 6, 7, 8-figure businesses. And on some level, they're happy, but on another really deep, like a deep soul level, it's like there's an unhappiness that's happening also. And one thing she was saying, she's like, and she's a therapist, right? So she deals with a lot of people on a deep level too. And she was just saying, like, I don't know, like, I want more people to actually jump into what that actually lights them up and allow that to continue to propel them forward. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree because you can have success all day, every day, but you without having success, without actually loving it, you're literally just going to a job that you don't love anymore. Like, think about how that feels when you're at a job that you're like, I really don't love this, but I'm doing this out of duty. Like, there's a different frequency, there's a different vibration that comes out of you that spills into other people when you're doing something that you absolutely love and you're having success with it, as opposed to having success with something, but doing the do and feeling overwhelmed while you're doing it and that whole process. So I don't know, like, what do you guys think about that? This was just a really fascinating conversation I had yesterday, and I just felt like I wanted to share. So, but
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting because we actually were starting to talk about this morning. We're reading a book called The Greatest Salesman Part 2. And we actually had an issue with this book. I started reading it and then I couldn't handle it anymore. We're like, we're done. It's like,
we got to talk about that. That's interesting, huh?
Yeah, it's like, and we're done with it because the conversation at a certain point turns into sacrificing, doing everything, and it comes from a very like, and we've said it before, felt very male perspective, right? But the interesting thing we were talking about is like, well, what does this actually look like for a female? And the conversation was around doing your best every day and just really enjoying the process, right? So no matter what you do, because there's going to be moments in your business where you don't feel like doing your business.
Yeah,
There's going to be
absolutely.
activities that you're going to have to do in this business that you just don't want to do, that are just like, man, are they like, you got to do it, and just confronting it is going to be the drudgery of it all, right? And I said, it's really interesting because when we're reading this, it's talking about, always doing a little bit more, going on a little bit, doing a little more activity, do a little bit more for your customer, doing a little bit extra, like the above and beyond concept, right? Go above and beyond. And how this ties into what you're talking about for a lot of us being unhappy as female entrepreneurs is that I feel like for women, we don't acknowledge, or it's been taught to us not to acknowledge, that being, a caretaker, somebody that takes pride in their household, that does the dishes and cooks the food, that isn't the best of you, right? That is just the expectation, and that the best of you is going into work and doing everything. So when you talk about, and I love this because I did get your voice message yesterday about, I know a lot, and I'm sorry to say this, I know a lot of very successful 6, 7, and 8 figure earners in the digital marketing space who are extremely unhappy.
Yeah.
While the money is there, what I think, and you pointed to this, the work that needs to be done in your inner self is completely neglected due to the fact that we just dive right into business and the expectations of business. And women, we are so much harder. I truly believe women are harder on themselves about how they're building their business than the men are.
I definitely
really
agree.
do feel like women just beat the crap out of themselves internally, emotionally, mentally. We call ourselves names. We are just really harsh on ourselves for not living up to this performance standard, right? That is perceived that, women can do it all. Well, no, right? And I think the thing is that women aren't happy. I think entrepreneurs are unhappy, but that's not what we're allowed to portray in the real world or in the digital world, right? We talk about this virtual world that we live in, and everybody wants to see the happy millionaire. Everybody wants to see the perfect life. Everybody wants the Pinterest lifestyle. And the Pinterest lifestyle that's portrayed out there, that pin perfect, as I keep hearing it called, that pin perfect lifestyle, right? Because it's all staged, it's all set up, really puts an extra weight or expectation on a lot of us to perform at a level that we're just not comfortable with. And I think that's really hard for us. So I love the fact that the lady you were talking to is like, yeah, I help, successful people be happy with their lives, because most of them aren't. Money does not make you happy. It will never, ever, ever make you happy. Striving for success will not change your life. And I know this morning, Heidi and I were talking about this because I had a moment while we were driving around town, and I channeled my inner Karen, because that's what I do in moments of sitting there.
Oh no.
Driving around. And I had the thought process. It's like, I feel like I'm just, and I'll be honest, like, it hasn't been easy building Truth Bomb. It's been, it's had its own ups and downs in the process, right? And I've had the financial success and I've lost it, and I've had the financial success and then didn't maintain it, right? And I think that's why, really, with what I look with that Truth Bomb, I'm always looking to, how do we now teach women to hold on to their earnings, to really create that profit? Because I've been through such an emotional wheel of making money, but not holding on to it, or not treating it like the energy it is, like the positive energy it is, right?
Right.
So as I'm sitting in the car, and I'm thinking to myself, we're in this space of reality where we're at in our business. And I'm like, you know what? What does it feel like to be a millionaire? Right? What does it feel like to be a multi-millionaire? And I had to sit with that. And I said this right here, as I'm sitting in the car, as I'm driving, as I'm thinking these thoughts, I said, this is what it feels like to be a multi-millionaire. And I got really centered in the heart, and I got really centered in my breathing. And I said, this is exactly what you're going to feel like, even right now as a multimillionaire. This is the feelings you're going to feel. This is the experience you're going to have. You're going to sit in a car being a multimillionaire driving around town. You're going to and I had to really just get that recentering of that presence again, because I think so many times I've caught myself thinking, well, when I get to be there, and I told, the mindset is always at play, right?
Right.
When I have it, I then can feel it. But it's like sitting there, it's like, am I choosing to be a multimillionaire right now? Am I choosing that? Am I choosing that with my feelings, with my heart, with my experience? And that's why, I think choosing to be a female millionaire is a choice.
Yeah, 100%.
And you've got to choose it before it shows up in your life.
Yeah.
And you have to choose it as you choose it. Like, how do you want to show up as a female millionaire?
Yeah.
How do you want that millionaire lifestyle to be in your life? Like, what kind of female entrepreneur would you be? What kind of family would you have? What kind of relationships would you have with your spouse, with your friends, with your family? And I think choosing to be a female millionaire in the sense of that you are at choice.
Yeah.
With it was for me like one of the big things. And this is an ongoing conversation. Like I've had this conversation with myself before. I know I'll have it in the future.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting when you talk about growing a business as a female entrepreneur. We've been told that it's going to be hard. We're going to have very little to start with. We underprice ourselves. Like we have so much self-negative talk out there telling us that we're going to be resilient. We're going to do this and that. And I think what we're missing is the cheering of ourselves on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like the thing that you said so perfectly was that you get to choose how that female millionaire feels. That's the piece of the puzzle that a lot of people miss, where it's like, I want to be that female millionaire. I want to be successful, but they forget about like tuning into the feeling of peaceful, happy, joyful, grateful female millionaire. They miss that piece of the puzzle. And so while they can tune in really well to money abundance, they're missing the feeling abundance. And this was something that was like taught to me years ago that I have always held on to. I had somebody tell me, they were like, you're really good at tuning into the frequency of abundance, but that doesn't necessarily mean money. And I had to think about that for a second, because I was like, well, what does that mean? And as I thought about it, I was like, that's great. That means that I'm able to tune into the frequency of abundance with my feelings, my emotions, what's going on with my relationships, all of that too. That is, in my opinion, way more important than the money. And what ends up happening is when you can tune into those things first, the feeling of the abundance of those things first, the money has to follow. That's just a part of it, because it ends up being a result of you feeling so good. And so for me, that's what I love doing at Truth Bomb, is letting you know that you can tune in to the feeling of feeling good. Like that's what I want you to tune into more than money, more than anything else. And if you can tune into the feeling of feeling good, it's like literally going to be a side effect. It has to happen that you are successful money-wise as well. So
it's interesting,
that's number one.
And I too agree. It's the feelings. I think people have forgotten to feel.
Yeah,
and I know it's going to seem really 100%. Weird to people that are watching us and then watching the live. But I honestly, I remember a few years back, actually reading, it's like, what are the emotions that we feel as human beings? And I was like, and then I was listening to a podcast and they said, yeah, there's an emotion wheel. I said, there's an emotion wheel?
Absolutely.
They're like, I'm like, what's an emotion wheel? And I pulled it up, and it's literally every variance of emotion and the word we use to describe an emotion, which is fascinating that we actually have this information out there. But what I think is more interesting is that because we become zombies in the world of social media, like we just turn on our phone, we jump onto it, we engage fully in this digital world, and this world doesn't create an emotional reaction to us. It creates a dopamine drip, a feeling of worth, but it doesn't actually allow for you to feel fully the emotion. Right. And I think it's really interesting that in a podcast, they're like, there's this emotional wheel. And I was like, what the heck's this emotional? I pulled it up and I was like, there's all these emotions, because they talk about, a majority of people talk about, feel good, feel happy, feel gratitude. You're going to have sadness and anger. And I mean, usually that's like your top 5, like those are the ones that are mostly described, right, in terms of a feeling. But there is such a vast majority or vast opening of all these other emotions in between that, and at different levels of experience. And I think we let television and movies cloud how to feel. And I was talking about this yesterday. I'm going to go on this tangent. I'm just going on a tangent.
You're allowed to go on tangents. We like tangents. And you weren't here last week, so you go for it.
Yeah, true.
So my tangent on this one is there's a show that I watch. It drives me absolutely insane, because I swear to all the above nobody in that film or that TV show can be single for more than like half an episode before they're madly in love with somebody else, right? And then there's this whole another emotional array of feelings. And, acting is about the over portrayal of emotion, the over exaggeration of a feeling. Yeah. And the thing is that our kids in our generation, and most of us, are raised on television and movies. So when we see that, because we have nothing to put it up against in reality, because we may not see love as just holding a hand or a look at each other, because you can't portray that in a movie. It has to be overly acted out. It has to be overly dramatized, right? That's why they call it drama, by the way, right? They have to dramatize it. So the subtleties of anger and love and the different feelings are very subtle. And I think we've lost touch with how to have those feelings in a lot of respect. And because we're not tuning back into our body, we're letting the world of social media and the world around us tell us how we should feel. And I really think that if you sat down for just a second and just been like, man, how do I really feel about that? And let yourself tell you how you feel instead of somebody telling you, oh, you seem angry. I hate when people say that, by the way. And I mean hate. I don't use that word often, but it drives me insane. It's like, oh, you seem angry. I'm not angry. Yeah, but you see, please don't keep telling me that I'm angry, or I'm going to get angry because you're telling me that I'm angry. Like, this is not helping the situation. If I say I'm not angry, then the next question is like, well, what are you feeling? But if you keep saying, well, you appear angry or you seem angry, you actually create that anger because you keep putting the word angry on somebody.
You're telling them
how they should feel. And we as human beings will react to how you're telling us how we should feel instead of letting us tap into what we're actually feeling. And sometimes the ability to communicate that isn't our easiest ally. Like sometimes our communication is what stops us from really understanding each other. So yeah, that was my tangent. It just annoys me that this whole television show, I'm like, okay, we were like an episode and they were like totally hot and heavy. And then the next episode, they're broken up. And then the next episode, they're fully madly in love with two different people. And that's the one. I'm like, wow, if life happened that quickly, and it can, not saying it can't, but then.
Yeah. I mean, that's my big beef with television in general. So this is something I had to notice in myself. I didn't realize it for years. Okay. And most of our listeners probably have never noticed this about themselves. So I may ruin television for you. Sorry about this, but I noticed that I could sit down to watch TV and I would feel good emotionally. I'd be like, I'm feeling really good. Like, let's watch this TV show. By the end of the TV show, I don't feel good anymore. I had actually because I noticed, okay, a lot of us don't notice the frequencies that we're putting out on a regular basis, like you said. And this is what I teach inside of Truth Bomb, actually noticing. This is number one important thing. I tell you, if you've noticed how you're feeling right now and you can actually label it properly, you should pat yourself on the back because this is a big friggin' deal that you noticed it, because most of us are not in tune with that. So, but what I noticed was I would watch this show, and by the end, whatever they were displaying on the TV, whether it was anger or frustration or revenge, I would start to feel that. And I'm like, I don't want to feel that way. But that's the thing. When you're watching TV, a good movie, a good TV show is going to be really good at tapping into your emotions. That's what keeps you watching, because you're like, oh, I'm so mad at this person. And like when you really get into it. And if you ever watch anyone talking about their favorite TV show, they get really animated because they're like, oh, I can't believe that this person did that and this person did, and they're getting really into it. They're feeling the emotions of these fake people on TV. You're feeling them. And we're missing that we're tapping into that. And that's actually probably one of the biggest places that we're programmed. That is unfortunate that a lot of us don't even notice. Like I have mentors that are like, I don't watch TV anymore because of that. Yeah. Because I know that it's programming my brain. And I talk about the subconscious inside of Truth Bomb all the time. You have a subconscious brain that's running 95% of the thoughts in your head, right? So literally you are programming that part of your subconscious mind. And if you're watching late at night, oh God, don't do that. Please don't do that. Cause you're really
the people that leave on their television as they fall asleep.
Oh, friggin' why? Because you're literally programming. Your brain waves are in a perfect state where you can actually program what's going on. Because think about like hypnosis. Like this is how hypnosis works. They get you into a state of mind, a brainwave pattern that they can say whatever they want to you and you'll start acting like a chicken. Like, and I've seen this before. Like they'll be like, okay, start going gobble gobble like a turkey or whatever, act like a chicken. And people will do it. And then by the time I snap my fingers, you'll be out of it. And they do it. And it's like, whoa, like there's something about the suggestibility of your brain waves when you're just waking up in the morning and falling asleep at night, that like, that's the time where I want to program myself the way I want to program myself, not the way a television set wants to program me. So that's the reason I don't watch the news either, because that, like, I see so many people wake up and the first thing they do is turn on the news. You're literally programming yourself to be angry for the day or whatever it is that they're trying to portray in the news. Fear. That's huge. They want to tap into this fear of, oh, you're a helpless human being that you can't do anything about this. Where in reality, I wish that we would all realize the immense power we have within ourselves within our heart alone. If you can change the frequency of what you're feeling in your heart alone, you will affect everybody around you. And I've seen this happen. And it's like a ripple effect. This is how you change culture. You change you change the inner you and what you're feeling on a regular basis. If you are so worried when you turn on the TV and you're like, oh, everything's going to hell. If you're so worried about that and you're like, there's nothing I can do, that's what they want you to feel. Yeah. The truth is that when you change the inside, the inner world, that is when you create that ripple effect with people around you. So if you want to change the world, you change you. And I'm a firm believer of that. And that's the reason I love talking about the stuff that I talk about. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
they're both going,
today.
You guys have a great conversation going.
Yeah, and you can contribute, you know.
I mean, I thought like Heidi's going over there, like nodding a lot. I'm like, maybe Heidi has something to say. I'm going to shut up here.
You don't need to shut up. No, I had a thought, but it's escaped and I can't think of what it was.
Oh, those escaping thoughts.
Those escaping thoughts. But I will say, I still see glitter and sparkle in your hair, Heidi. Heidi got these glittery, sparkly things like a week ago, and they're still hanging on. So
they are for the most part. I had one fall out yesterday. I had a child tackling me, and
that will definitely have an impact. You know,
that
sparkles in your hair.
Yeah, let's pull
maybe that's
out.
what got him so wired.
Yeah, that sparkles in your hair. You're like a package.
It's just like
that's fun. Yeah. So, but
no, I think, you know, well, we talked this morning about, you know, the mindset of a female millionaire. Was there anything that came up for you?
Well, I think it was like, so we're reading this book, and it was like, and he talks about different things, and he talks like today was about doing your best, and it was like, and I know it's like, and we first talked about was like how different things in the chapter were more of like how a man handles the day and stuff. But I always look at it was like when I was, you know, I was raising my kids, I was always reading parenting books because that's what you do. Sure. And but this one book, and I basically threw out majority of what they taught because I didn't really agree with it. But the one thing that I got from them is like, what are you known by? How are you when they talk about doing your best? And it's like, and for me, it's like, what are you known by? Are you known by a person that is authentic and real and is going to tell you the truth? Or are you known by somebody who gives out fluff? And it's like, oh, I'm giving out all these promises, but then there's no follow through or fulfillment on the other side. And I know it's like with my kids, it was like, you know, it's like when they knew if mom said something, mom was going to follow through. I wasn't somebody who was going to say we're having a party or you're grounded for 3 months, for 3 weeks, and it only lasts for 3 days. They knew what I said I was going to do. And it's like, and I think it's like, it's how, and I think for women, this is what we kind of discussed. It was like, for women, it's like how I parent in my kids. It's how I'm going to be in my business. It's how I am as their homeschool and parent. It's who I am. And I think it's not so, I think we tend to live life as a whole. At least I think we're healthier when we do, versus men can be very segmented. They can leave work they can be one person at work and be somebody else at home. It just tends to be, it's like, it's the mindset. But I think for me, at least, it's like, who are you always, not that you are 100% the best all the time, because nobody is. Nobody is. And we don't ever like to hold that mantle, to hold that standard is you're going to feel like a failure, whether you're probably going to beat really yourself up. Yeah. So it's like you're beating yourself up. So it's like, and so that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, what are you known by? It's like, are you known by somebody who eats healthy, but, occasionally you do have a piece of cake or a glass of wine. And it's like, but what are you known by? And so I think it's like, for me, that is like something that helps, that I don't have to be perfect, but it's that I love that it's like, I can be this person and that's who people know me as. If I screw up, I screw up, but that's not my, reputation per se.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer of people can change. I know in life, like you hear, oh, nobody changes. Like once a liar, always a liar. I hate that. I'm sorry, but that's like, when I was 5 years old, I lied, but it's not like it made it a pattern. Like the thing is that we get in patterns. Absolutely. Because that's how our brain is wired. It's wired to be like, this happened. And as a result of this is what you did in the past. That's literally what your brain does. It's like a computer in that way. So you have this emotion, and because of that emotion, now I'm going to go eat a whole tub of ice cream. Like that's the pattern you've been in. But if you start noticing the emotion or the thing that happened that causes the eating the whole tub of ice cream, and you go, wait a minute, I don't have to fall victim to that emotion anymore. I can actually change it when I notice it. And literally just noticing when it happens and going, you know what? I can stop this right now. I say this to myself out loud. I can stop this right now. And I did this actually yesterday because I was having a moment where I was sitting there ruminating and I was like, no, stop this. And I said it to myself out loud, stop this. I could sit here and do this all day. Instead, I'm going to allow grace in this situation because that is what's healthy for me right now. So I want to share this story because I think this was like really mind blowing that this thought came up. And so, okay, so there was this guy, and this is a guru that I've followed for a while, right? And he was on somebody's podcast, and this guy is a big workout guy, and you probably would know who he was if I said his name, but he basically was talking about how he had gotten in this habit where he was addicted to sugar, right? Super addicted to sugar, and was like, I just like, once I have sugar, it's like all hell breaks loose and I just want to eat the whole tub of ice cream, right? Like this is what brought this up in my head. I just want to eat the whole tub of ice cream. I'm just so addicted to it. And he's like, after I eat it, I feel so guilty. It's like I can't stop myself. Like, and once I'm done, I just feel so guilty because I'm this big bodybuilder and that's not how I should eat and this kind of stuff. And the question was posed was, well, maybe it's not that you're addicted to sugar. Maybe you're addicted to the guilt that follows the sugar. Ooh. Holy crap. So like thinking about it in that way, where it's like the emotion, what's the emotion that you're addicted to that you keep going back to? So if you like to gossip about other people, if you're in a situation where you're like gossiping about somebody and you can't go, wait a minute, I don't need to keep talking about this. If you can't stop yourself while you're in that emotion, you are addicted. to that emotion. If you literally can't go, I am feeling XYZ right now, and you can't tell yourself, I need to stop, you're addicted. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to say it how it is. Like, did she really say that? Yeah. I mean, I know we're not on our podcast right now, but that's the truth of it. And when you start to create habits for yourself before that emotion shows up, where you can actually mentally rehearse yourself doing something different than doing that emotion, that's when you can start making change. And it's one of those things that it can take some time. So like in the case of this bodybuilder who's eating this whole tub of ice cream and then feeling guilt afterwards, instead of going through that whole process, he can start asking himself, where else am I feeling guilty? And where else am I connected to this feeling of guilty that I'm starting to eat this ice cream so that I can feel this emotion, so that I can feel this? Because that's what your brain, like your body and your brain are just getting in this cycle. And your body's like, oh, I haven't felt guilty in a while, so maybe we should just have this whole tub of ice cream, right? So that's when you start noticing your thoughts and your feelings on a regular basis. And that's when it gets exciting, because when you start noticing those things and you start creating change, that's when stuff changes in your life too. That's when it's like, holy crap, I have a totally new life. And so like with my husband recently, we kind of like dissected back himself. Like we were looking at, there was a habit pattern that he's been portraying for a long time, right? And he's known that he does this, but I don't think he realized how deep it ran, how much of a pattern it was. And it for him, it was like he was in the pattern of feeling disappointment, and from that disappointment, feeling helpless, right? And so for him to finally pinpoint, I'm feeling disappointment, and this is how I'm showing it. This is how it's manifesting in my life. I am literally in a cycle of feeling and thinking and thinking and feeling this disappointment. And it's literally manifesting itself in other ways in my life. And now I'm looking for ways to be disappointed, which is really, really crappy. So what I said to him, I was like, you break this pattern, you completely change your life, because this is the big, big whammo. This is the one that like, this is it, because this is where all of the other stuff comes from as well, because it's all connected. And he's like, yeah, I know, I totally agree. And so he's like mentally rehearsing in his brain now, what is he going to do differently? How is he going to start showing up when things that may be disappointing show up? Yeah, I'm not saying don't act disappointed when something disappointing happens. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying notice when you feel that way, and then asking yourself, well, is this serving me? Can I actually start doing something different and not ruminating over the thought over and over and over and over and over again, so that I'm creating this subconscious pattern, so that now everything in my life is just a disappointment, where this is an exciting thing, but you're disappointed? What in the world? And that's where manifestation, and that's where people change. And that's where manifestations come out of the blue, because you've changed that pattern. You started looking at your life and going, well, what am I doing that's creating more disappointment? Like, I'm creating this. And when you can look at your life from that way, you're no longer the victim of your reality. You're now in the driver's seat, and you're going, this is how I want to feel and think. And it's a totally different way. And this, for me, this is what it's all about with what I teach inside of Truth Bomb. Like, how can we, as that female millionaire, or wherever we are in our business, what is it that we can pinpoint that is holding us down, that is keeping us stuck? And sometimes it takes some time as you're working through that. It takes some time to rewire it, first of all. And then second of all, after you've rewired it, sometimes it takes some time for your life to completely change as well. I have literally have manifestations where they've happened instantly, and I've had manifestations where they've taken time as well. And being okay with the unknown. For me, like, I've learned that trusting the situation and being open to what comes, that's where the sweet spot is. That's where it's like, I notice what's going on, and I notice how I'm feeling about what's going on. And I'm letting things go as it comes. I feel the feeling, and then I let it go. because there ain't nothing I can do about it now. This is what's happened, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm allowed to feel disappointed, anxious, overwhelmed, frustrated. I'm allowed to feel that way. But how long do I want to feel that way? Because the longer that I feel that way, the more I manifest more things in my life that create disappointment, frustration, overwhelm, inadequacy, whatever word you want to put in.
And I think this goes back to the start of this entire conversation that we had, where there are very successful people and their personal lives are a mess.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it really looks at the whole thing, as we've talked about this before. Being an entrepreneur will force you into self-development more faster and sooner than anything about having a job, working for somebody else. Like if you're choosing to build your own business, if you're choosing really to go down this path, you have to confront yourself. This is one of the most eye-opening journeys for any single human being, is to say, I'm choosing to be an entrepreneur. And if you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, you really have to get to know yourself. And one of the things I think I've seen over the years, especially couples that one of them is an entrepreneur and the other one works at home or like has a job, right? There is a different mindset between the two. And because as an entrepreneur and you're not going to the job to get a paycheck, you're actually creating your paycheck.
Right.
There is this, you have to deal with your money concerns. You have to deal with your emotional concerns. You have to deal with getting feedback from your customers, whether positive or negative, right? You're in such a different space than going to work and being critiqued for your job, or getting, a yearly review, and then getting a bonus. Your bonus really is an entrepreneur. The bonus is your ability to change. And I know a lot of couples that if one is an entrepreneur, that person goes through so much more change faster, right? Because they're doing a lot of internal work. So unless your partner is with you inside this journey, if they understand what the journey you're on, and I think this is where that communication is so key. Because if you're going to become an entrepreneur and your spouse or partner is still working the 9-to-5 job, they're not going to understand what you're doing unless you open the door and bring them in on that journey with you. And so many times as a female entrepreneur, we don't want to burden. We want to prove that we can bring money home without having to leave the house per se, right? We want to be able to work from home, create this income, and do everything else. And we go through such a massive change in our personal development and our mindset and our beliefs. And so the one thing that we don't tap into a lot as women is that inner emotion that we do need. Like, what does it feel like to have this type of life? And so I think it's really interesting when you say that we do change as human beings. Guys, we change all the time. Every day you wake up, you're changing. And if you don't think you're changing, you're lying to yourself. Let's be honest, right?
If you're living, you're changing.
If you're living, if you're breathing, you're literally changing, right? And the thing is like, I always tell people, I said, when I meet an entrepreneur, I know nothing of your past. I know you from that moment and whatever you just choose to create your future from. So any past failures, I don't have anything around that as your mentor, right? As your business coach, as your business partner. I don't know anything that you've dealt with in the past. All I have is who you are now. And then my belief of who you're going to become. And I would always rather cheer a person on and tell them they have the worth to do whatever they choose to be, than to sit there and let you tell me, oh, well, I did this in the past and this is who I am. No, you get to choose who you get to be from this moment on. And that's why I think choosing to be a female millionaire, with all the setbacks and all the limiting beliefs that we've been put on us around having money, around having the family, around having a life in a business balance that we've been told we can't create, you actually could buck the norm. And that's what we challenge inside Truth Mom Academy. And that's why so many women that are coming into us are having massive breakthroughs and having massive shifts in their mindset, is because we're no longer accepting that standard that you can't have a balanced life. Women create balance. That's actually something we are excelling at. But the training that's been given to us doesn't teach us how to balance that. It's not speaking our love language, I guess you could say. And when you can speak the female love language to another woman about how they're approaching their business and share the ups and downs of being a female millionaire in business, that changes the game for so many of us. And that opens a door that we didn't even know that had been closed to us, right? So that's what I love about what we're teaching inside the academy. It is the feeling, it is the mindset, it is the cash management system. It is understanding that money is an energy, and how do you treat it is how it's going to treat you, right? And so if you're abusing money, spending it, letting it go, focused on, I think you talk about, like, if you focus on your expenses, then you're just going to incur more expenses because that's where you're first thinking on. But if you focus in on taking profit and paying yourself first, and learning that you also deserve to be rewarded in owning a business as a female entrepreneur.
You deserve to get paid, right?
I mean, if you're going to, that's what always makes me so fascinating. People, ladies specifically, will open up a business, then they'll close it and they'll head back to the job because at least they're getting the paycheck. And the reason they want to go back to the job and get the paycheck is because they never learned how to pay themselves their own paycheck. They never learned how to write themselves a check.
They kept reinvesting in the business.
Yeah. And this doesn't serve women. So if you're not learning to write yourself the check and actually take the money from your business account and put it into your personal account and get that paycheck, like you have got, that's a habit. That is a mindset. That is a rewiring. That is a reprogramming. That is a move that most of us as entrepreneurs don't take, because we're told, oh, you'll take profits at the end after you pay your expenses. And we're no longer okay with that formula. We really aren't, because women, the first thing, I mean, that's why we get into business. We want to take care of our family, we want to take care of us. But if your business comes before your family, that's not okay. That's why we teach a cash management system, because you've got to put yourself first, then your business. It doesn't mean your business gets neglected. It doesn't mean your business and your customers aren't the most important thing. That's not what we're saying at all. But you have got to take care of yourself first.
What it always goes back to is, like, as women, it's like, if you let yourself go, you're not any good for anybody else. And it's the same thing in your business. If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're sacrificing everything personally for the growth of for the overall growth of the business, your business isn't going to last.
You will be a hot mess. You will be an emotional mess. You will quit your business. And you'll,
like I said, you might as well go sign up for community service.
Well, I've seen it manifest in a lot of, like, very successful females, whether they're a millionaire or 6, 7, 8, doesn't matter how much money they're making, right?
Yeah.
I've seen it manifest where they are sending themselves to the hospital over and over and over.
Yes.
And it's like, hello, your body is trying to tell you to calm the fuck down, but you're not paying attention to what's going on.
Right.
I mean, your body is literally always sending you signals. One of my favorite books that talks about this is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Phenomenal, because she will literally go through each part of your body and be like, this is what, if this is happening in your body, this is what you're probably thinking. And it's not always like a exact science. However, I have noticed with myself, I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting, because yeah, I am thinking that thought in different parts of my life. It might not always be the same, or it manifests differently, but it's a pattern. And when I started to realize, oh, then I could get on top of that thought and be like, actually, I don't need to feel this way. I don't need to feel. When I got down to the depths, the nitty gritty of this is what I'm thinking and feeling, the word that I finally labeled it as was frustration. And it showed up in different ways. So nail biting is an example of frustration. I actually stopped biting my nails completely, which is really friggin' awesome. That's how much I've rewired my mind. Now, there's other places in my body that's still showing there's a piece of frustration I still need to work on. And I know that. And I'm still rewiring. But that's the thing. I'm noticing faster. I'm actually going, okay, I've already rehearsed what I want to think and feel instead. So I can tell myself to stop, or I can keep thinking this thought that's making me feel frustrated. Or I can just go, Karen, stop it. This isn't healthy. And when I do that, there's a shift that happens, and you can feel the shift in your body when you go, you know what? I don't want to keep doing this anymore. That's when you know you're starting to break that addiction, because you're going, okay, I could continue to feel this And this is for me, the big whammy. This is the big whammo that once I completely, like, this is gone, I'm not even connected to it anymore. I already know. And I've already seen this happen. And when I allow the frustration to kind of creep back in, then I see, oh yeah, that's an old program that I can continue to let go of. But when I'm no longer completely connected to it anymore, I'm like, oh God, you better buckle up because nothing's going to be the same. Like, that's the thing. Like, each one of us, in my opinion, has that kind of thing. And I was actually reading a book. I know we're running out of time here, but I want to add this in. I was reading a book recently. It's called 90 Seconds to a Life You Love by Joan Rosenberg. She is a neuropsychologist, brilliant, by the way. If you haven't picked up this book, you should. It will help you navigate your feelings very, very well. So she actually dumbs down all of the feelings. You talked about the emotion wheel at the beginning. I feel like sometimes the emotion wheel is a little bit overwhelming. So what she did is she dumbed it down even further. So she was like, this feeling, like, anxiety wasn't even in the list. And I'll tell you what the list was in a second. This feeling, anxiety, is actually a result of this initial feeling that you're having.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what those emotions are that she dumbed it down to. There's actually 8, okay? There's sadness, shame, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration. So there's those 8 emotions. And if you can look at yourself from a greater perspective where you're asking yourself, what is the feeling that I have actually been portraying over and over and over again in different ways? When you can name it and label it, and you can actually catch yourself in the act of feeling that feeling. And the reason it's 90 seconds to a life you love is every time you feel that feeling, your body releases a chemical that you have memorized. This chemical, your body's memorized this chemical. So your brain is going to release this chemical in your body. And it takes about 90 seconds after the release of that chemical. Takes 90 seconds for it to flow through your body. Okay. We're not talking about trauma here, guys. Okay. So don't worry about trauma. We're talking about just a pattern of being in a pattern of thinking and feeling. Right. So, when you give yourself that 90 seconds to feel the emotion, and then you can start to look at yourself from a greater perspective and go, okay, I just noticed that I did it. I'm feeling the experience. And now I can release it and let it go. That is when you create so much freedom in your life. And I've watched my husband do this. This is what's really fun because he read the book with me and he was like, whoa, that was probably one of the best things he could have done, because now he's actually looking at his emotions like this, where he's like, wow, I've never felt disappointment like that before. Because it's like you ignore it. And that's what happens.
You suppress it. You suppress it. I want to feel that feeling, so I'm not feeling it.
Exactly. So anxiety is a result of not feeling the feeling. Think about that for a second.
Oh, I got that.
For me, yeah. So for me, I was like, oh, I'm anxious. And it was like, well, is it that I'm anxious, or is it that I'm frustrated and I'm not feeling the frustration and then releasing it? That was what it was like. Oh, that's the difference. Okay, got it. Okay. And so it's like you kind of like peel back more and more layers of yourself. And so now I can have a mental rehearsal in my mind of, okay, when I start feeling the frustration, I can continue to feel that way, or I can go, actually, I've mentally rehearsed feeling more peace in my life. I've mentally rehearsed feeling more freedom. I've mentally rehearsed feeling abundant, or whatever the word is that you want to put there, right? And you can go back to that feeling instead and go, okay, I already know what I'd rather say to myself, I'd rather do with myself, than keep going back to those old feelings and those old emotions that are just going to keep me in the past in a program that doesn't serve me at the end of the day. So,
yeah. And this ties in again to like what I shared earlier, is like, how do you want to feel about being a female millionaire? That choosing to feel that experience for yourself and owning that, like literally letting yourself feel it. Like, do you feel anxious around it? Do you feel frustration around it? Do you feel happy around it? Like, are you connecting back to your heart? Are you connecting back into your body? Is your body feeling that emotion of being a female millionaire? because it's not something that's going to happen to you. It's something that you're evolving into. And a millionaire doesn't mean the money. The millionaire is also, who do you choose to be in the world?
Absolutely.
Right. So the inner work of being a millionaire is not just the monetary money in the bank account or wherever it is. The feeling of being a female. Yeah, that's the side effect. But the real work in choosing to own your business is, how do you feel about your business? How do you feel about your marketing? And yes, there are strategies and tactics behind this. Yes, there are cash management systems you have to implement and processes. We're not saying this is a whole feeling game. There is actual like things and actions you have to take to bring forth the change you want to do, because we are in a world we live in. So actions are part of our life, right? So if you want to take profit, then the action is, when money comes in, you're taking that money and you're putting it into a profit account, right? That is the action to take. But how you feel about that as you're doing that action also plays into it, right? Yes, there is a marketing syndication strategy that teaches you how to market your business, how to leverage other people's platforms, services, and techniques to really expand and grow your audience faster. Yes, there's still an action you have to take, but how do you feel about your marketing is such a big piece, right? How do you feel about the product that you're selling is such a big piece. Yes, you still have to create it. You still have to leverage technology. You're going to have to have a calendar. You're going to have to learn how to set up your coaching or your digital product or your physical product. But there is the action, but then how do you feel about this? What are your beliefs around this? Become a big part of how you're choosing to become a female millionaire. And addressing this at this level allows for Truth Bomb Academy to be a higher vibration academy. We're not just your standard business academy. We actually elevate you to a higher vibration to have you play at that bigger level where you do feel good about your business, and you're not just doing because you have to, you're doing because you choose to.
Yeah.
Because of how you choose to feel.
Well, I mean, I want to tie this in real fast because it fits so perfectly. Like that guy that ate the whole tub of ice cream and feeling guilty afterwards, right? There was a feeling that was connected to it. So when you have the feeling, it causes you to make different choices. When you have a feeling of feeling good, of feeling blissful, of feeling gratitude around your business, it causes you to make different choices as a result. It is literally, that is also a side effect. So when you get on top of the thought and the feeling, that's when your life does change, because you're going to do different actions. You're going to actually do something completely different. Because if this guy like cleans up the guilty feeling, he's probably feeling guiltiness in other areas of his life. Cleans that up, he won't even have to think about eating ice cream anymore and eating the whole tub. He won't have to worry about that because it won't even be a part of his personality anymore. It will just be completely gone at that point. So it just flows over into everything at that point. So yeah. So with that, I think we crushed it today. This was probably one of my favorite conversations. I mean, anytime we talk about your brain and what you're thinking and feeling, I'm like, I am so there. But friends, if you haven't done so already, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and come hang out with us more, because we're having more and more conversations just like this. We're also giving you a lot of the strategy when it comes to building with your marketing, building with funnels and emails and blah, 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 all that stuff. But also we're giving you the mindset around it as well, and your money as well. So with that, can't wait to hang out with everyone next time. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and grab the link in the description where we are actually doing, it's called the Female Millionaire Code. This is a totally free workshop that we're gifting to you because we want to see more females actually be successful in their business. So there's a link in the description. It's that 3M to profit. You got to grab it. It's literally like life-changing if you start doing a lot of things that we share inside. So with that, I think we can call this a wrap.
Ooh, I like it. All right, I'm ending us on YouTube. Bye, everyone.
Bye.